How about talking about last night?
Last night, the election, you mean?
Yes, and the speech by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Yeah, yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Is he English? Are you?
Yes, I am. I'm mixed, but I was born in London.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's good enough.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd love to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, I felt renewed. I felt relief, and I felt love as well. You know, and I thought these were, just great themes that they came out of the speeches last night. And in fact, I was moved to tears. And I'm not quite sure how we can fit this into the three principles, but I thought it was a good place to start today, since it's such a recent event that's affected so many people.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised that so many people who aren't from the United States have been watching this very closely and are extremely thrilled that Biden got elected, because Trump seemed a little bit dangerous. A little bit, hugely dangerous.
Yes, yes.
I shouldn't say things like that, but I was really surprised at, we talk to people from all over the world, and they would ask us, how's it going? And I thought, I think they're talking about the election. And they were talking about the election. I have to tell Svi hi. Hi, Svi.
Where is he?
He's right down here. He just
Oh,
came
there he
on.
is.
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
Good to see you.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but thanks for saying hello. So good to see you guys. So good to see all these faces here.
Been a long time.
Yeah.
Nice group.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody else have any comments about the election and the speeches? Anything they want to say?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, can I speak? I'm not used to this. Oh, gosh.
I can't tell
Yeah,
who's
you're doing great, Mark.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yes.
Right. Sorry about that. No, for me personally, although I completely agree with, that he was going. I mean, I was disappointed. It wasn't who I would have voted for. So you see, there's a lot of so much different thinking going on between everyone. There's so much fractions and so much fighting. I've never seen a country so divided in my life, and that's why people here are talking about it nonstop. It's like as if we're in the middle of the United States. We're in the UK, but as you can probably tell by my voice, but it's so divided, and I was just so disappointed yesterday. But I realized Biden can't make me feel anything, nor can Trump make me feel anything, so it's really helped me.
Oh, good. Yeah. That's been my experience too. That the thought makes me feel the things. My use of thought makes me feel the things that I do, and wow, that's just continues to help me. So I'm with you. I'm with you, Mark. And the thing. The thing of thought as a principle is once you really get how that works, or and how how we use thought, use the principle of thought. I think it really disengages me. Time and time again. Not always, not forever, but disengages me from ego. And ego is the real. One of the things that Sid Banks said about ego was that that there wasn't one hassle in the universe that wasn't created by ego, and I think that's ego is equally spread among Democrats and Republicans, or Tories and Whigs, or wherever you go, ego is a nemesis. And I just love the principles and how they've helped me and helped all of us neutralize our ego enough to see clearer, and to think clearer, and suspend ego. It can arise again, and does, but a world, the promise of a world, or a promise of a civilization that could suspend ego on a on an intermittent basis, even alone, would be tremendous. And I love the principles. The principles have always, in my mind, helped all of us to see beyond our ego. And I think that's a wonderful thing, and it just continues to help, to be of help to all of us. So I'm happy about that. So one of the things that I was looking in the missing link that Sid wrote, and he talks about ego. He says ego is at times we're captivated by our own ego and become prisoners of our contaminated thoughts. At times, ego creates self-importance and is strictly related to the personal self and the personal intellect. Ego creates duality and separates us from the great divine oneness and wisdom we seek. And that's just of tremendous value, I think, for our lives.
I'd like to say something.
Sure. Hi there. How you doing?
Hi. Greetings from Colorado. I was just very impressed, heartened, elated with the spontaneity of the outpouring into the streets of everybody. Very, very little, I think, kind of ego or intellect. Everybody just had to get out and celebrate. Not everybody, but a lot of people. And it was just so spontaneous everywhere across the country that, even though there is still division in the country, there was a great, I think, again, spontaneous coming together that just felt really good to me. So I joined them here in Boulder. We had a small time kind of celebration, but it was real all the same. And it was just a lot of positivity, a lot of hope, I think. I think that's something that was renewed last night, that a lot of us have been missing over the last even 4 years. And everybody just had renewed hope, I think. And I think that's important. I think that's important for all of us. So.
Yeah.
I'm a child of the 60s, and for me, there's always been kind of division in this country all the time I've been alive, ever since the 60s. So it's really, the division is kind of nothing new. It just is more, I guess, intense and more publicized because of the internet and everything and social media. But I'm still hopeful, so.
It was nice to see the spontaneous response, that people were just moved,
Yes, yeah.
pick up their heels and get out. And
Did you have some of that in your little town? And
Actually, I'm not sure you were awake for it, but Valda, but
I heard
There
the
was
firecrackers.
there was a bunch of firecrackers that, and it seemed like it was right in our yard. So
I think it was right in behind our house.
it was very close.
Street, yeah. That's
And-
okay. That's good.
and-
Somebody had some leftover firecrackers and they put
yeah, yeah. So it's been interesting to me too. Like there's a kind of an ongoing study that's been done about the principles, and one of the things that is coming out of that data, there's a lot of data, but it is a sense of it's about COVID, but people have attested to the fact of the finding a kind of a peace or a sense of I don't know, you could call it contentment. Not to say that they're ignorant or anti or pro or whatever, but they're the data is coming back that Three Principles folks are content about their lives and about what's going on, and I would presume, although it wasn't measured, but I would presume that would even go toward the politics and division and negativity itself, that there's some sort of sense of a peace and harmony among Three Principles populations, that it looks to me like the world could use more and more of. And I think it has to do with this suspension of egotism. As a general rule, the more we get hip to that, and I know some of you are probably familiar with our diagram here behind us, but one of the things that we realized when we were trying to sort out what separates us, what and it's ego. It's a false separation, but it separates us from many things. And the red line in the diagram, and the one of the things that, well, do you want to mention that? Like one of the things that happened with Leslie about ego, the outside in.
Well, you carry on and then I'll do that.
Okay. We were trying to see that the principles bring some sort of rigor.
Do you need me to say that now?
I was hoping you would.
Oh,
yeah.
well, why don't I do it then? I didn't understand. One of our friends, Leslie Miller, she lives in Seattle, which is close to us. And she's been a Three Principles teacher for a long, long time, very good friend of Sydney Banks. And so she was so cute. Once in the beginning, when Keith and I started talking about the Three Principles as a paradigm, she'd say, talk that paradigm stuff to me, would be what she would say. And so we'd say, sure, And so we got to where we would just, anytime we were going to sit down and talk about it, we'd call her up and include her. And so we were all learning things. And at some point, I don't know how long it took. I don't know if it took years, months. I don't know. She says, you know what I think? She says, I'm almost afraid to say it. She says, but I think that the outside in is ego. And I said, I do too. And I said, and I didn't know that until now. I said, I just hadn't seen it. But I get that it's thinking that something works a way that it doesn't work. And it just creates all sorts of trouble. And I said, that's like the ego. And I had originally had an idea. Sid used to talk about ego a lot. And I was kind of, I just didn't know I didn't know why. But there was a lot of stuff he talked about that I didn't understand. So I was used to just letting it go right over and hoping I would learn something later. So, that wasn't an unusual place for me to be in. And so that's what I had let happen. I had been raised in a church, and their idea of ego was this sort of bad, evil thing. And so I kept trying to find the evil thing in me. I thought, now that's what the ego is. It's that evil. And I just couldn't see myself as being very evil. I don't have a particularly evil personality, nor had I ever. And so I thought, well, maybe I don't have much ego. I don't know. I thought I'd be surprised, knowing myself. I thought I bet I've got some, but I just don't know where it is, because I kept looking for it to be the evil, bad part of me. And then when I saw it paradigmatically, it was like, oh, I've got tons of outside in. I'm constantly finding myself thinking outside in about things. So it's like, oh, I've got ego to last me, the rest of this lifetime for sure. And it was just great. I finally had a clear picture of myself that I could find myself in my ego thinking, and I could see that it would be outside in, that I would be thinking that it was something other than thought in the moment was creating my feeling, and I was believing it, and I was having reactions such that it actually worked that way. And I thought, so that's what it is. And it just completely changed everything. It was great. And we all started, boy, I wish I had numbers, proportions to put on this. I don't know what they were for Leslie and Keith and myself. Mine was pretty big. I just started seeing all sorts of things. It was just like flooding in, and I was thinking, oh, look, I do outside in egotistical thinking there. Oh, look over here. And to have all that stuff start dropping away because it was recognizable finally was just wonderful. I kind of started to understand the feelings of certain egotistical types of feelings. Like some of them were about thinking I was better than somebody else, or thinking somebody else had done something to me that was wrong, and they may have, but that didn't mean I had to feel bad about it or that I had to feel judgmental. And I thought, this is great. I feel like I've been let out of jail here. I could have somebody directly, do something to me that anyone would agree, oh, that's not right, if I told them the story of it. And I didn't have to get mad. I just thought that was great. I realized that everybody has trouble with this. There's not a person in the world that's not going to struggle with ego or outside in thinking, which are the same thing. And my heart just went out to everybody. I truly felt a kinship with everybody about that. I thought, we are all going to struggle the same struggle. Who knew? I didn't know. And I just, my compassion for everyone just really swelled up in me, and I knew that I didn't mean to go outside in or be egotistical when I would do it. I would get truly fooled. by what was going on. It looked like it had the power to make me feel a particular way. And it just was it was very deceptive. It was so deceptive, it would honestly fool me. And clients would say, but it really feels real. And I would say, I know it really feels real. It happens to me too. I said, I'm not exempt here. So I don't know, there was so much to be learned. I loved how much I learned about how, as a human being, we all had a lot of things that we were alike. We were all in the same boat. There wasn't another boat someplace else. We were all in the same boat. And I just thought, well, how about that? It touched my heart that other people struggled with this stuff. I could see my judgment of others just went down, 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 down. It was like, I would think, that happens to me. I get confused about things. I think it has the power to make me feel a particular way, and I'm off to the races. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm talking about it, and I'm telling my husband about it. And then at some point, it's like the spell breaks, and I see it it's like, wait a minute, this thing only works one way. I'm feeling my own thinking in this moment, and that odd little fact matters. That step in how things work psychologically for people to have experience, that you will not have an experience if you don't have thought. And that just helped me so much. I could listen better I didn't do anything different, but my listening level went up tremendously. Keith and I both noticed. He especially noticed, of course. And but I did too. I thought, I'm being less reactive, and I'm being able to listen better. And that was just a real boon to me. I'd always needed that, but I didn't have it. I was too reactive. And so to have that added to me as a surprise, not because I was trying to cultivate it. I didn't see it clearly enough to know to try to cultivate it. I should have, but I didn't. So, and my communication, my ability to communicate went up. I had a clearer thought process. I had so much less on my mind. I had so many fewer people to judge that I had all this spare time almost, you know? And so it was going to sort of good use in me, that I was becoming a better listener, better communicator, more interested in all sorts of things. So, and once again, all of these were a surprise addition to me. One, like I was a slouch before, but there was plenty of room for improvement. And how nice it was not to feel judgmental of people, but to have compassion for them, that they made a mistake. I make mistakes all the time. Everybody does. Nobody's exempt. And just a clearer picture of what was going on. I never imagined I would get to learn all those kind of things and change in all those kind of ways. I didn't have a clue. It wasn't like I had a roadmap that mapped out what was going to change about me. What did you notice changing about yourself?
Well, the quietness, which was surprising to me. It's surprising in that I didn't know how unquiet I was until I got quieter, and the rigor and the certainty of comprehending how my feelings work, my state of mind, my state of experience, my field of my feelings, being directly traceable to thought in the moment really it, it, uh, it Valder wrote a piece once, and there was a sentence in there I just kept coming back to and looking at. In that, I'm paraphrasing because I didn't memorize it, but it, you wrote something when you see that something's not possible, that it's not possible to have a feeling without thought. It's a lot less tempting to believe in when you see something is not possible. Then when you think it is possible, then it's really much easier to believe in. So it did something to remove a lot of a feeling, a judgment, superiority, inferiority, all kinds of problems that I didn't even know I had, that were alive and well, got eroded, or they got, when I realized that because I could experience them, I could experience the freedom of them not being there. And so the listening, like you mentioned, my listening went up because I was less distracted by my reactions and judgmentalism and my petty thoughts and my which I had tons of that I had no idea that I did. And it was kind of like it would get kind of deactivated or something. So I'd be in the moment and I could really be there without thinking about that, without thinking about all of that. And the opposite of all that was quiet, listening, presence, being available in the moment. And I found myself less prompted. Before, I might have a lot of reactions, and I was having a lot of reactions, but I didn't. So I might bite my tongue, but I was still thinking a lot and judging a lot. And again, unbeknownst to me, and when I saw that, I couldn't have a feeling without thought, without the principles in the moment, without mind, thought, and consciousness in the moment. That really eliminated a lot of, kind of an undercurrent of thought and reaction and judgment that I never knew I never knew was there, and it kind of pulled the rug out from under it, and the quiet was noticeable. Like I thought, gee, I'm not reacting. I'm listening. I mean, I could feel the difference of the quiet, and so the quiet was really the quiet was deafening. You might say the quiet was loud. Which is a funny way to put it, but without without all of that other. It was really unconscious thinking, I think. There's a lot of unconscious thinking that we don't that I was doing, and I think other people do, and don't know they're doing, and that it's kind of puts us on a kind of a simmer, or a sense of mild agitation or mild disquiet. There's a kind of a mild disquiet among the general population, and certainly was true for me. And so having those thoughts eliminated or deactivated, or now I knew that it was not possible to have that feeling of disquiet without thought. It eliminated and has continued to eliminate a lot of other possibilities, because I felt righteous about those thoughts. I felt justified in a lot of those thoughts. I felt superior or inferior, either one. So I didn't know that I didn't know that that was what was causing that until it quit. When it quit, it was like I could see better. I could hear better. I could be present without anything else on my mind. And that was a real, it's a real pleasure. And I think it suspends egotism that has been really, valuable or had been valuable for me. I did not even know that I was thinking. And there's a definition that Sid gave of the mind. He said the mind is a force, and it acts as a catalyst and turns your thought, whether conscious or unconscious, into the reality you now see. And it's those conscious and unconscious thoughts that create egotism and create that a world that you don't really want. You just don't know that you don't need it. And whenever with the quiet counteracting it, suspending it, it created a lot of well-being, a lot of peace, a lot of a sense of connection, a sense of contentment, because when your mind's quiet, I had always tried to have a quiet mind, but I did not know how to really have that be made manifest. And the rigor of where do you think your feelings are coming from, as a question, and that they have to be coming from the principles and our use of the principles for everybody. It really it cleared out a lot of debris that was it was unnecessary thinking. And I'm so glad to have it any bit of it disappear. That the quiet became so nice.
So I feel like I get stuck on it's Rose. I feel like I get stuck every 3 to 4 months just in time for the next Paradigm meeting. So this is really good time. This is really good timing.
That's cute.
And in August, I was really stuck on worrying about a friend of mine, and you really helped me with that. I had an experience literally last week where I got stuck, and I could see I was stuck, and I was judging myself terribly. I think last time I did the judgment thing as well, but this time it was, I'd really helped somebody hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and she was separated from her husband. She ended up going back to him, happy ever after. And we're 2 years later, and I asked her to write me something very short. And to put it mildly, she didn't go out of her way to help me. And so I had a huge story about it. And I was, this is gratitude, they say this is always how it works. And then I realized, but, obviously she can't affect the way I feel. And yet I was stuck in judgment of her which it didn't look like judgment of her. It just looked like an accurate assessment of the reality. But it just obviously felt like ego. It felt wrong, and I was still stuck. And at the end of the day, I hashed it out with my husband, and all of a sudden I was like, I'm not letting myself feel any pain because I'm judging myself for feeling pain, and I'm not letting. And every time, I feel it was so painful that I wasn't moved to tears, but I could have been had I allowed myself. I felt very upset. And as I realized I wasn't letting myself feel the pain because I was judging myself for even feeling stuck like that. Like, that's not the way it works, It's not like I felt the pain anymore. I just noticed that's what I had been doing all day. And all of a sudden, all the things that my husband was able to see as many other aspects to the story that I wasn't able to factor in, all of a sudden I could see that. So I wanted to ask your advice about pain when you are stuck and how you feel about that.
Well, I think you're right on it. I think because I don't think it's pain. I think it's denial of pain, or I'm not, when you made an object, this is how I see it. When I make an object for myself, I shouldn't feel pain. I should feel happy, or I should feel whatever that thinking is of a denial of the feeling. It creates an antagonism in you, and that's what you were calling being stuck. So when you this is how I comprehend what happened to you. Talking with your husband, you're saying it right now, that I was stuck about not wanting to feel what I was feeling. But when you create that thought in you of an antagonism toward an experience, that's objectifying you. That's an ego operation. That's a kind of denial. I don't, and so that's what we call stuck. When you get something happened, some insight happened about that was what was holding you back, and when that happened, your ego got deactivated, and when that happens, curiously, surprisingly, the pain disappears. So it's not really a pain thing. It's a denial thing. It's an objection thing. It's a judgment thing. Because you can not only judge other people, you can judge yourself. And when there's one beautiful thing that Sid said about that if you can, mental sickness is created when you put feelings onto objects. So if you have an object about how you should feel and what and how other people ought to behave too, but how you should feel, that creates mental sickness, surprisingly. But if you can see, and then the second part of that sentence was, if you can see the object, meaning again, the denial, the egotism, the outside-inness of objecting to the feeling. If you can see the feeling without the object, then it disappears, because it's an inner battle. That's what you're calling stuckness, and people go through this, I think, when they realize they look like, sometimes, like for us, when we realize that beautiful feelings or positive feelings is that an attribute? Is that a characteristic of of well-being and mental health, yes. But if you use that, if you conceptualize that and use that to as a kind of should, as a kind of an object, you can create stuckness. When you see that so again, Sid's sentences was mental sickness is created when you put feelings onto objects. But if you can see the objects without the feeling, you're healthy. When that's what happened to you, in my book, and when that happens, there's a release and there's a disappearance of egotism and a disappearance of mental sickness. And you found what you found the truth about what you were looking for without trying, without judging yourself or anyone. And that's what we're all looking for, is that peace beyond the negativity and mental sickness we create. I hope that makes
Right,
sense.
because that's the piece that I didn't phrase it right, but it didn't matter, because that was the piece that didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
If I would just rephrase it, it wouldn't be that I didn't allow myself to feel the pain. It's that I judged myself for feeling the pain, i.e. still having the thought. And
Yeah.
that's what I was stuck in all day. Whereas
Yeah.
if I could another time say, look, I'm stuck on that thought that she's whatever, and obviously I'm going to feel some sort of pain, but it's about the thought, and I'm stuck on that thought, and when I'm unstuck, I'll see why she was incapable of helping me, you know. Yeah, it wasn't about the pain in itself. It was the judgment, for sure.
Bingo.
And you start seeing more often. It's like people get truly deceived, and then they act poorly. And sometimes they act poorly to you. And to not have judgment about that is just a huge thing. One woman we were working with, she and her husband, they worked together. And I happened to bring up something about somebody. And I had no judgment at all. I didn't even have to fight it back. And I said, well, well, some people just they don't see what's going on, and they don't realize what they're doing. And I went on to talk about the situation. And I didn't even think about what I had just said. And then the woman says, do you know what you just said? And I said, well, I think I do. And she said, when you said that thing about, she said, the way you just casually talked about it, that they weren't, you didn't have any judgment towards them. She said, we have wasted so much time commiserating with one another about the way people behave when we don't like the way they behave. She says, I can't imagine how much more time we're going to have. Well, and I thought, very she took me by surprise. And I could tell how it was all in her words.
Yeah.
And I mean, that'll be wonderful for the two of them working together, that they'll be able to, when you've got friends tell on friends. So there's a lot of times what's going on. The person that talked bad about you behind your back doesn't really come and tell you, but the other ones do. And so then and it's so nice. I mean, you've got a real life situation where people are being unkind to you, or they're being judgmental, whatever. not nice. And to not feel to not feel justified in being mad at them is just great.
Yeah, and to not feel justified in needing to think about that. Even if you
Yeah.
hear it or you know it, you don't have to. I mean, wow, that's just amazing. I think that's what she was realizing. Like, oh my God, we have spent
Yeah.
hours and hours and hours commiserating with each other about people or about other experiences, our experiences with shared experiences too. They kind of, and when she realized that it wasn't that they didn't have to do that anymore, it was
Yeah.
like, get a, we could have another a career. I mean, we made a career out of this, and with our spare time, I mean, who knows what we might do? You could see she was kind of envisioning the mental peace that was going to come her way by disengaging from that. When you uh, I always think about a clutch in a car. When you use the clutch, you can shift gears, and then you let up on it, it engages that gear. But if you pop the clutch, you might say, on that thinking, she was realizing, whoa, we could just coast. We wouldn't have to engage that. And she was realizing, whoa, that's like a whole level of peace, and that we could just carry on with our lives without that was huge for her.
There is an aspect that sometimes when you're in a real life situation, like you're saying, so like you're saying, you bump up against someone who you just don't enjoy the way they're treating you. And I find it such a mystery that there's, the more you see this, the less you care. You notice it's not behavior I would like to copy, but you don't take it personally, and you just keep going. And it's such a mystery why some of those things, you get stuck, and you just can't see the
Yeah.
wood for trees.
Yeah. And then maybe later on you see it, but knowing that you're the driver, like, whoa, and you might not see it, you might not see it, you might not see it, you might not see it. You see it. Oh, man, when you see it, you're free. And and then again, you might do it again, but that's all coming from your engaging those little gears in your mind, those little negativities and judgments in your mind. But that's driving, that's living. And so you begin to get a feeling for that. And it's really and then sometimes, like, I've had things that I've been engaging in for years,
Your whole life.
my whole life, or with a person, or with a circumstance or event. I mean, and I've been grinding away on, innocently, and then it gets dropped, or I see it, and it's like, oh. I think that's what she was seeing. We don't have to do that anymore, honey. Like, they were both like, whoa, like the absence of that
Yeah.
grinding, that the suffering, the judgment, the never knowing it was self-inflicted wounds, thinking it was justified as regards to the world and other people. When you see that it's you, you're wow. And how many more of those insights are there to come for you? Well, there's got to be, you know, trillions, maybe
Well, I just had one
dozens.
now.
Or
Right?
what?
I just had one now that it's like I really do need to start accepting that sometimes I will inflict things on myself.
Yeah, yeah. It's innocent, you know, and then when you see it, you think, oh my goodness, what a fool am I?
Yeah.
But you kind of laugh at it. You kind of see there's a lot of humility, self-compassion, self-forgiveness, you know, and you drop it, you know, it can disappear. And wow.
You know, Sid would talk about having a nicer life, and I just couldn't imagine what thinking of mine could change such that I would have a nicer life. I thought, okay, I'm ready, let's go, you know. And but nothing would come to mind. And I thought, well, I guess I'll just have to wait and see. And now I was 27 then, I'm 71 now. Many years down the line, I've had so many things change that I know it's not the stuff that I know needs to change. It's the stuff I don't even know that I'm thinking. And I love that he put that line in that definition of whether conscious or unconscious. And I thought, oh boy, there's a lot of unconscious stuff that I've got going on here. And I wish I could know it and see it as, you know, and define it as thought for myself, but I don't see it. But so it was so clearly given freely to me because I didn't have a clue. And then here this new thinking would come in, which would just be great. We had a couple, and the fellow had a son who was now in his 20s, and his ex-wife had sort of turned his son against him. And so the son just didn't want to have anything to do with the father. And the father kept trying to do nice things for the son. And the son, it would just irritate him. And so he and his then wife, who we knew well, they had spent a kind of ongoing 7 years being upset about this son, and it being kind of their main topic of conversation. How poorly he treated the dad, how good the dad had been to him.
How ungrateful the son was,
Oh yeah,
you know,
it just went on and on and on.
entitled, there's just a lot of thinking around that, a lot.
And so whenever they got that they were feeling their own thinking and that they might not want to, they could just see what they've been doing. Every time we talk, we were working with them, so we'd talk to them on a weekly basis. The first thing she'd say is, "Thank you for letting me out of jail. We had been in jail for the last 7 years." She says, "I don't know how our marriage withstood it." She said, but she says, "We have so many other things to talk about and to do." And it just dropped for both of them. And they got unjudgmental about it and just worked the best they could with it. And now it's just, the whole thing has just changed. The kid is not resistant anymore. It's a completely different situation.
Yeah.
But they were so thrilled to get out of that bad habit that they had. And it looked justified, you know.
Yeah.
This dad he would help his son out with money and let him store his stuff in his storage building. It just went on and on and on.
He was bending over backwards, and then when they dropped it somehow, too, it really changed the son's dynamic with them. Like he became less.
He became less judgmental,
negativistic and judgmental, because I don't know, there was something there must have been something, and I mean, the son didn't really, something in their trying and efforting and thinking and judging, and there had to be something there that when they quit that and just kind of came to peace with things as they were, well, the son, it's like one side quit fighting in a way, and when that happened, the son he quit fighting, and it was more normalized, and the dynamic was more give and take and sharing, rather than this. They were both locked in a struggle and pulling something out on their part. Everything has changed. They're close. The grandkids, they bring their grandkids around, the son now. I mean, the whole thing is they have a completely different dynamic.
But they had to see some things about themselves which they saw and recognized, and quit doing some stuff in their with their thinking and in their relationship with one another.
And when someone's trying, I think they were trying to please, trying to earn, trying to get him to act right.
Oh, they were.
And when they quit trying to get him to act right, he starts acting right. It's a funny thing that would create a dynamic of entitlement, and that it's funny. It's a funny thing how your happiness affects the dynamic, and things can evolve then naturally.
If I could say something, circling around to where we started here, I've realized often over the last few years how much I sit in judgment of Mr. Trump, and I judge his judging. I judge his ego, that he seems to be the most egotistical person that I've. And I, like you said, I grind on that often. It's just like, and blaming a lot of feelings that I have on him. And now I don't have that to do anymore. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I even talked to a friend yesterday that we often talk politics and talk about the situation. And I said to him, what are we going to talk about now? We don't have that to talk about it anymore. But I guess, are you saying that whenever we find ourselves in judgment, that is necessarily outside in thinking? And yeah.
Thinking that something has the power to make you feel a particular way. Then it didn't work that way.
Yeah.
It's so unbelievable because it certainly looks like it does.
Yeah.
Got someone misbehaving, and then to not take the path of judgment and righteousness sort of is it's really surprising.
Yeah.
To yourself.
Yeah.
And you start to see how much it hurts yourself.
Yeah.
And it's just,
it makes me the victim all the time too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're strong enough, you don't have to be the victim all the time,
Yeah.
You get to come into your own and be yourself and not be a victim.
When I first heard you mention, Valda, about the it surprised me that you would say that the outside in thinking is more indicative of the ego, because to me I just kind of assumed from the start, well, if if it's my thinking and, you know, inside out, that's more about me. That seems to be more about the ego that, well, it's my thinking, you know, and I'm doing that, you know. But then I gradually came to understand more, you know, what you're saying is that it is that outside in of then kind of becoming the victim, that it's me, that I am the victim. And that really kind of establishes the ego that way. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great to have a way to recognize what is outside in or what is ego. Very helpful. I wasn't I didn't have an argument with it. I didn't wish that I didn't have to change or anything like that. I just didn't know what it was. So I couldn't recognize it. And boy, when I could, that was just great. I thought, oh, it's like I've got a roadmap now. I finally have a roadmap. I never knew I was going to get a roadmap. Very helpful for me, the way I think, to have a roadmap.
And you had the truth then.
Yeah.
The truth shall set you free. So.
Yeah. I think I once was trying to describe ego and the negativity and the felt negativity of life, and so I was thinking about driving. You know, like in the States at least, and I think many places I've been, even foreign countries, they have those kind of reflectors. That you could, you know, if you get out of your lane, you could get bop, 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 bop. And then if you get out, you get beyond the reflectors, you get in some of the superhighways here, they have grooves that they
Yeah. I hate
these,
those things.
you get a real roar.
Yeah.
I mean, tires roar, and that'll really wake you up, you know. And then beyond that, there's the ditch, you know, and then the fence, and then the trees, you know. Let's just say. So you get these graduations of difficulty, you know, and but I was mentioning, like, for me, driving on the reflectors was like pop, 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 and I'd be, no, I'm fine. I'm doing fine. You know, Father would say, how are you doing? Oh, I'm great. I'm doing fine. I'm doing, you know, and I was so used to the noise and the vibration that I didn't cue on it as being thinking. And then when, like, again, you know, like, and she would say, I'd say, why do you keep asking me how am I doing? She says, well, we'd be in the kitchen together, and she would say, there's something about you, like, usually when we're in the kitchen and we're not thinking, it's like a dance. Like, you know, you move over here, I move over there. It's like a ballet. And I keep bumping into you. You're not much of a dancer. And so I thought, and then I thought, well, what's going on with me? And then I realized, oh, there was something that happened this morning that really stuck in my craw, you know, and I was hurt and judgmental, and I was bothered and upset. I wasn't violently angry, but I was irritated. And I had this low level of irritation. And so then when I saw what it was and it went away, it was like the smooth road was like, whoa. And the ballet was back, you know, and the present mindedness was back. And I really liked that, making progress on the road without so much negative feedback, vibration. And I again, I mean, I think it's just so tempting to think that that's like in my sleep there, even hours later, I was still in, they shouldn't have done that. And I, you know, whatever, I had my justifications, and I was suffering that vibration. So that's my driving example of.
I like it. It's a great metaphor.
Sometimes I get completely in the ditch and in the trees, and
You didn't have to go into the trees, right?
well, yeah.
The bushes will slow you down a little bit.
I think sometimes people, you know, there must be people driving in the ditches. No, this is great. Life's the way it really is. It's a you have a lot of flats, and you got to stop for transmission work and all kinds of things.
Once again, it's good. You're saying too that all it took was that understanding. You didn't have to work on it. You didn't have to have it analyzed or anything. It was just kind of that
Yeah.
flash of understanding, of insight. So.
Oh, there's another great metaphor. This is transportation metaphors, but tell me, I don't know that I'm not a pilot, but apparently the way planes are small planes. I don't know. I don't know if this is true or not, but I like the metaphor that if you get into a death spiral, you know, like the plane is going down, that it's very counterintuitive, but what they teach pilots to do is let go of the wheel, that the plane is designed to self-correct, but in fighting it, they won't let go. And so surprisingly, letting go is the remedy for the plane the intelligence of the plane to take over. It's just a nice metaphor, because I think what we do, you know, the grip and the fighting and the tension and the fear that ensues is often so compelling, you know, that you might forget your training, but with thought anyway, you know, when the worse you experience, you know, the worse it gets, the more chances in a way you have to realize, oh, I'm doing something counterproductive for my own welfare here, you know. And if you can get as you see how that works, there is a feeling feedback loop that's happening to you all the time, and it's via thought in the moment. And when you see how that works, you become more conscious, and you let go. And letting go is of great solace and great help to you,
Right.
regardless of your age, your situation, your circumstances, your health, your welfare, your money, your politics, whatever. It's good for what ails you.
Sorry, yeah. So about a month ago, I had amazing life-changing insight. It was incredibly life-changing. It was a bit more than the property line, but that was a very helpful example for me of what I was learning a little bit more. It was actually, I believed, a certain part of my body was controlling how I'm feeling. So let's call it my lungs, for example. You probably know what I'm talking about, but maybe one of you, I don't know. So imagine your lungs. So the whole time your body's constantly engaging with, is reacting to your lungs, which are functioning constantly. So like, unlike in the case that's at the property line where he's there sometimes, and when he's on vacation, he's not, this is with me the whole time. And I realized that all the pain I've been doing all the years was because I thought my experience was coming from a certain part of my body, say from my lungs. And that was incredible. And all the misunderstandings, like, you're from Washington, so you know a bit about nice weather. I'm from London, and here in London, I made the weather was a misunderstanding. This was a misunderstanding. I realized all those things they were attempts for me to explain my feelings, because we look outside, but we look at what we see. Oh, my neighborhood. So it was my neighborhood was one, my house, my city, the weather, or the lack of weather, whatever you call it, all that stuff. But then I never looked anywhere else, and then it hit me so hard, and it's incredible what happened to me. And obviously, because it was so strong, it kept coming back. But the diagram was so helpful, and now I'm getting like 100 insights a day, and I stopped using the diagram, and I'm just, because it's instantaneous. So let's say my lungs, every time your lungs is puffing, it's kind of, I don't know, connected. So what I'm asking is, I just think now, if an example of a lungs, I'm just thinking of the lungs. I just think lung, boom. It can't be lungs. How's it possible? Lungs is respiratory. This is mental. This is psychological. It's completely separate. And I just go like that, and I link the lung. I link the lungs. So let's say if it was the case of Donald Trump, I would think that guy, and I'd have like a measuring tape, 2,000 miles, like no connection, like it instantly connect. But my question is how because I realize now so clearly that is when that what's happening is I'm instantly misattributing my experience. So I have to, and I'm getting negative feelings. The negative feelings is like me putting my finger on the gas. I have to take it off. I have to react to that. I can't just, it's not healthy to live like that. And I need to get more and more insights, so I'm completely out of this. How would you, I know Valdez spoken about this before, about just letting inside out thought coming and outside in thought. It's not really important, just all sorts of thought. But I would say it's an alarm bell. So wouldn't you say it's important? I don't know.
I think it's
If you're
like
thinking your liver or your heart is creating your experience or whatever.
I don't think through the chart ever.
Sorry?
It's just a snap. It's like, oh, it doesn't work this way. It's usually what comes to me. I can see that I have attributed my feeling to something other than thought in the moment. It's oddly noticeable. It's like, well, this is ridiculous. I don't want to go on this kind of ridiculous thinking. And it's just there. So it's more just a matter of the logic of the thing that grabs my attention. But that's just me. Keith is different. He's,
right.
Goes about things in a different way. But I love it when you get beyond the chart and it's like an alarm bell. What's going on with me here,
Right. And would you say like it's sort of eventually it just disappears completely?
Yeah.
Is that something you'd say? Because sometimes I get the impression that I'm stupid. I keep needing insight the whole time, which is incredible. I'm having insight, but
yeah,
I keep needing insight the whole time.
Yeah.
Making this mistake again and again and again.
Yeah.
I think some things you get glimpses and you do still get confused by and deceived by that certain thing. And then some things seem to completely go away. And I don't have I don't make it be one way or the other. I just kind of notice. But I have some things that I don't, I know it's not good. I know that I'm thinking outside in. And then it's like, I'll sort of banish it. It's like, this is not, you don't want to do this. This is no good. And then, I'll have a couple of minutes and then it's back again, so, and some of the things it's like, it's there, I realize it, and I banish it. I just think I recognize it for what it is. I don't banish it. I recognize it for what it is. And it goes away because it no longer has any validity. And it stays gone for a long time. There's no way to judge it all. I'll take what I can get.
Right.
Sometimes it goes away for a long time. Sometimes it's back in minutes.
Right.
But I just figure it's part of the learning curve about things.
And you'd say there's like an element of I know we can't say accumulation because this is not a cumulative thing, but it's like, you know, why do I get why there's honking, like why there's so much fireworks in America now? Yeah, of course, it's like instantaneous thing. But I don't know. Like the more I see the same thing revealing itself, the more true it becomes. Is that fair to say? Even though
I think it adds up. I see it once, twice, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, whatever, 500 times. It starts to, the cumulative effect does build, and I'm not as deceived by it.
right.
And some of those eventually go away. I had a insight at 27 years old that has stuck with me. It was about my ex-husband, and I've never once had a bad feeling about him since. Not ever. Anytime I think about him, the insight that I had comes with it. It comes in the new way. And I thought, well, how about that? Because I used to have a lot of thinking about him.
Right.
Not
I just
good.
want to add one thing. Is one thing I had was with the weather. I was just traveling. You know, I was thinking about California. I mean, England is completely hopeless if you're concerned about the weather. But London is like California, but you know, it's not. I mean, for us in our terms, but you can't get better than that. It's probably like Washington. But for me, I went everywhere. I was going to Spain. I was going to the Middle East. I was going to all over, and I had to go. It wasn't like, oh, I prefer the nice weather. I had to go. Otherwise, I'll be chronically depressed and I wouldn't be able to, survive properly and everything. But now, honestly, Miami or Seattle is probably, it's just a question of which flight is cheaper, really. That's the only difference. Or which it's incredible. And I really, really want to thank you for, I mean, that's just one thing, which is unbelievably life-changing, Throughout the book by Norman Rosenthal about seasonal affective disorder, I had that book and I got rid of it. And I really believed it. And now it's complete nonsense to me, with all due respect, and I respect him, but it's just very humbling. It's something I could never believe that I would see such a thing. But that's how it goes. Yeah.
Idea about the Washington weather.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Worse is
No, I have a friend from Seattle, so he keeps going on about the weather there. So that's how I'm on it.
That it's good or that it's bad. He doesn't understand me. That the weather's good or bad. What does he say?
Oh, he's not so he just tells me it's always cloudy and raining and stuff like that. Yeah. But he's that was when I was talking all day about the weather.
Yeah.
Like I talk all day about the principles.
Yeah, good.
yeah.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Where do you live, Mark?
London.
In
In England, yeah. London.
How did you come upon the principles?
Well, we actually have a centre here near where I live. Terry Rubenstein and iHeart.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went there, started, and eventually I came. Yeah, and I started to go into all the other things, and like I had very strong insights. I had very powerful feelings and things, very spiritual feelings and powerful insights. But then I kept having these feelings, and it was kind of like very hocus pocus a lot of the time, about, just live with it and find wisdom and all that stuff, and be in peace and love and all that. And then I came across the paradigm, which they teach the paradigm a lot, but And that was really the game changer, I think, for me.
That's great.
Yeah, but you know, I don't disapprove of the other things, but I think this paradigm is so powerful. Yeah, it's
Works for
crazy.
you. Works for
Yeah.
me too.
Thank you.
Really helped me. And that's a red line, you know, that's in our.
It's too
you know,
simple for me. It's just
Yeah.
too simple. That's it's so simple. I can't even. Yeah, it's it's crazy. Yeah, it's. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I heard Christine Heath the other day talking, and she mentioned about the feeling, that feeling. Now, I've been present in Salt Spring Island, and in a group of about 60 people, and I think I experienced that feeling because the room went very quiet.
Yeah.
So where I'm going with this is the feeling the essence of Sid's message? There's a whole lot been written, but is it the feeling that's the essence?
Oh. Probably, but that's also deceptive. People can have very, very good egotistical feelings where they just feel great about themselves. If they have got somebody that they're judging, and it just makes them feel wonderful about themselves. So the feeling is, if you understand that people can have great feelings of egotistical feelings that feel really good, and that you'd want to check it to see if it's inside out or outside in, against something such that you wouldn't just be deceived by it. The feeling would be the essence, but you'd want to know the difference between the two. And I've had to catch myself a million times. I would think, just, oh, I feel very good about this, don't I? And then it's like, oh, you are so outside in about this. And then so I can't, it's nice not to get deceived, and we've been around a long time, and you'll have people that are three principles people, and they'll be telling you how great they feel, and you can list the ways in which they're outside in. You don't have to tell them or do anything about it, but at least I don't have to be fooled by that anymore and manipulated by that anymore. So I was really happy to have this line right there that I would know if I crossed over it. This is the single. I think it's a single paradigm, and that's what really happens in life. So this is the other way of it. It's in the background.
Okay, Barb.
Just a,
Mm.
I would like to just add a quick little story because I think it really points
Good.
to. And this was something that my 16-year-old client said.
All right.
He said, well, I can see that there's, and I never showed him the,
Cool.
never really talked about inside out or outside in, and I didn't show him the diagram.
Mhm.
But we talked, and whatever was created in the moment. And he happens to be an incredible listener. And he said to me one day, he said, well, I can see that there's one of two places you could be at any given time, but there's an entirely different feeling
Oh,
depending
wow.
on which place you're in.
Well said.
So I think, to me, that's how I would describe it. Look for the feeling. It's more like either you're hitting the bumps or you're not. If you're driving, kind of connecting back to Keith, because and just to add one more thing, if we misunderstand that and we're not getting the feeling and we're hitting the bumps, what can happen is what actually literally happened to me once a bazillion years ago when I was driving my girlfriend's Volkswagen, and the Volkswagen started to veer off the side of the road onto the bumps, and I overcorrected, and the car flipped head over head over head, and everything in the side of the car except my girlfriend and me was strewn all over the freeway, and we ended up on the wheels, still going on the southbound side of the freeway. We were going north.
Oh
You
my
know,
goodness.
I was thinking of, what happens again when we sort of have objectified this statement, look for the feeling.
Yeah.
We can flip over and over and over and over because we can't find it.
I think that's a great point. To talk about the essence of Sid's message. I mean, there are many essences, many words, but those are just words. And I think he was very clear about going beyond the words. But the words are, the words I've come across are phrases or truth, feeling, listening, peace, beyond ego. They're all synonyms, and there are many others. Those are just ones I can think of offhand. So there aren't any words, concepts, or beliefs that are Sid's message. And he was, and he would come back to that and mention that, talk about it. So if you don't get too married to one word or concept, it's really, the truth is not embedded in any phrase, concept, belief. It's before that. And thank goodness, thank goodness.
I want to say one other thing about the feeling. There was I tried that sincerely, but I started trying to eliminate some feelings that you wouldn't so much think about as good feelings or happy feelings, but they were feelings of deep quiet and actually good for me, and it wasn't good for me to kick them out. So I found myself being more judgmental of my own feeling because I was looking at the feeling only to guide me. And so I thought there's times for great quiet and reflection. So I just remember using only that, and I started perverting myself, sort of, which wasn't good for me.
It kind of goes back to what I've forgotten her name. I don't see her on the screen right now, but one of the first commenters in this meeting was talking about the
I can't remember.
she had a there was, in a way, she was fighting her feeling and denying her feeling and understanding that was just the way she was thinking in the moment, eliminated that from her, and the insight she got from her husband really helped her.
Could you say a little about your programs that's coming up, or I guess everything's on your website, but I'm just wondering about any dates or anything you have for the upcoming programs?
Well, we have an ongoing kind of supervision, professional development program that we meet with regularly. And that's really right now, because of COVID and different things, that's really what's going on. So that, and it's at this time regularly. So anyone, we've made that available for anyone eligible. You don't have to be a coach or a teacher, but if you'd like to join in a group that meets regularly at this very time, you're more than welcome to do that. That's available on the site. And when other dates come available, we'll
I thought I saw something about resilience or something, a program about resilience, or maybe that was one in the past.
Probably so.
Yeah.
We
recorded many of our
Okay.
programs and have them available for people on the website, and we're proud of all of them. You know, so that's something that's available for people too, you know, whenever they want to access it. Okay.
And we make
Okay.
what do we make? Videos of us working individually, one-on-one with another person.
Yeah.
And then we send them to that group and they watch them. And then the next week we go over, we what do we call it? We
Debrief it.
debrief it. Yeah.
And that's a wonderful way to learn, because you can hear, like sometimes when you watch someone, like one person go into depth about whatever's on their mind, you can learn so much from watching that happen, and get impacted and profit from it. We love doing it, and it's a nice means to go to kind of take a deep dive into a person's own thinking, their own issues or whatever, because every person's different. And you know, there's a wonderful phrase that Tolstoy in this book Anna Karenina. The first sentence is, every happy family is the same. Every unhappy family is unhappy in their own way. And I think that typifies the inside out and the outside in. The uniqueness of our unhappinesses torment us, but the truth is there's a unification and a similarity and a dying down of our problems, and a shared mutual identity of being problem free. And so being more and more problem free. And so that program, we get a chance to talk about that, and we have a question and answer meeting that we have regularly too. So that we really love doing that, and we'll continue to do it. So that's available to anyone. And you look on the site, 3 THREE principlesparadigm.com.